Please raise your right hand. Please state your name for the record. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give before this committee in the matters under consideration on this day, December 8th, 2011, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, sir.
I thank you. Please be seated, Ms. Corzine. Do you know you have the right to counsel?
I do, sir.
And please activate your microphone, Senator.
I do, sir.
Is your counsel in the room?
My counsel is
Would you please state his name for the record?
Andrew Levander.
Thank you, Senator Corzine. Please begin your testimony when you are ready.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Lucas, Ranking Member Peterson, and distinguished members of the committee. Like all of you, I am devastated by the enormous impact on many people's lives resulting from the events surrounding the MF Global bankruptcy. Of course, my distress and sadness pale in comparison to the losses and hardships that customers, farmers and ranchers and others, employees and investors have suffered. Their plight weighs on my mind every day. As the Chief Executive Officer of MF Global at the time of its bankruptcy, I truly apologize to all those affected. Before I address what happened, I must make it clear that since my departure from MF Global on November 3rd this year, I have not had access to many of the relevant documents which are essential to my being able to testify accurately about the chaotic days preceding the declaration of bankruptcy. The members should also understand that the committee turned down my request to testify voluntarily in January. I had hoped that by that time I would have obtained and reviewed relevant records so that I could be more helpful to the committee. While I intend to be responsive to the best of my ability today, without adequate time and materials to prepare, I may be unable to respond to various questions members might pose. Other questions, given my specific role in the company, will be questions for which I simply have no personal knowledge. Make it very clear, many of your questions may well be ones I myself have. When I joined the company in late March 2010, MF Global was primarily a voice-based broker that provided execution and clearing services for products traded in derivative markets on exchanges around the world. The firm had reported losses in 5 consecutive quarters before I arrived, and it had lost money in each of the previous 3 years. Upon my arrival at MF Global, management and the board, advised by an outside consultant, devised a new business plan. The plan was communicated to the public and provided, in substance, that MF Global would evolve into a broker-dealer and ultimately into an investment bank. The implementation of the plan was expected to take 3 to 5 years. I was hopeful about the prospects for the company, and I invested in it personally. Much of my compensation was in the form of options to purchase stock, which would have value only if the company prospered. In addition, on a number of occasions, I purchased shares of the company with my own funds. I never sold any stock. In the summer of 2010, I met several times with MF Global senior traders to discuss ways to improve the company's revenues and profitability. One of the ideas discussed was for MF Global to purchase short-term European sovereign debt using repos to maturity, known as RTMs. Before I came to MF Global, the firm had engaged in billions of dollars of RTMs with regard to U.S. Treasury securities, U.S. agencies, bonds, and corporate debt. It had also previously held billions of dollars of foreign sovereign debt positions. In the summer of 2010, we decided to draw on these experiences and to engage in RTMs involving short-term foreign sovereign debt. In these transactions, MF Global purchased foreign sovereign debt from a seller and sold the same to a counterparty with an agreement to repurchase the security from the counterparty at the maturity of the debt. When MF Global entered into the transactions, I believed that its investments in short-term European debt securities were prudent investments. MF Global invested in RTMs with respect to the debt of Belgium, Italy, Spain, Ireland, and Portugal. The first 3 of these were rated AA or better when MF Global invested in them. Even today, all three remain A-rated or better. Ireland and Portugal were lower rated, but they were largely backed by the European Financial Stability Facility and the IMF. I accept responsibility for the RTM trades. I strongly advocated that trading strategy. Nevertheless, it is important to recognize that MF Global's investment in these positions was the subject of internal discussions with senior managers, traders, and with MF Global's board of directors. Indeed, the trades were described, analyzed, and debated at multiple board meetings. I believe that the board members, all of whom joined the board before I joined MF Global, were independent and sophisticated. They asked hard questions and raised concerns. The directors approved sovereign risk limits for these RTM trades. At the time of the bankruptcy, MF Global was within these risk limits. The RTM positions were also publicly disclosed, both in the periodic financial statements, which were reviewed by the company's counsel and accountants, and in other public statements, including press releases and earnings calls. As of today, none of the foreign debt securities that MF Global used to engage in RTM trades has defaulted or been restructured. All of those securities that reached maturity while they were a part of the RTM position paid in full. In my written statement, I have attempted to describe the relevant contacts with regulators during my time at MF Global. As explained in that statement, I did not exert undue or improper influence on regulators. My communications were typically in the presence of various members of the regulatory staff, as well as my own colleagues. The late summer and fall of 2011 were extraordinarily difficult times in financial markets for almost all market participants. On October 17, 2011, the Wall Street Journal published an article that described a FINRA ruling regarding the capital treatment of RTM positions, which MF Global had disclosed on September 1, 2011. Other news stories followed. On Monday, October 24th, rating agencies began to cut MF Global's ratings. MF Global announced its quarterly earnings on October 25th. The announcement revealed that MF Global had lost $191.6 million in the quarter that ended September 30th. In light of the attention that has been given to RTMs and the reports that attributed MF Global's loss to RTMs involving European debt securities, it's important to note that the loss was not, and I'll repeat, not related to those positions. As I've explained in my written statement, the lion's share of the quarterly loss was a write-off of approximately $119.4 million that related to tax losses accumulated largely in the years before I arrived. Shortly following the earnings announcement and the ratings downgrade, some clients and counterparties withdrew their business from the firm. Others required increased margin. Firm stock traded at sharply higher volumes and lower prices. Despite our best efforts to sell assets and generate liquidity, the marketplace lost confidence in the firm. Obviously, on the forefront of everyone's mind, including mine, are the varying reports that customer accounts have not been reconciled. I was stunned when I was told on Sunday, October 30th, 2011, that MF Global could not count for many hundreds of millions of dollars of client money. I remain deeply concerned about the impact that the unreconciled and frozen funds have on MF Global's customers and others. I simply do not know where the money is or why the accounts have not been reconciled to date. As the Chief Executive Officer of the MF Global Holding Company, I ultimately had overall responsibility for the firm. I did not, however, generally involve myself in the mechanics of the clearing and settlement of trades or in the movement of cash and collateral, nor was I an expert on the complicated rules and regulations governing the various different operating businesses that comprised MF Global. I had little expertise or experience in those operational aspects. In short, I do not know which accounts are unreconciled or whether unreconciled accounts were even subject to the segregation rules. Moreover, there were an extraordinary number of transactions during this period, the last few days of MF Global. And I do not know, for example, whether there were operational errors at MF Global or elsewhere, or whether banks and counterparties have held on to funds that should rightfully have been returned to MF Global. I am sure that the trustee in bankruptcy, the SIPC receiver, and the regulators are working to answer these questions and to understand precisely what happened during the firm's last days and hours. As the Chief Executive Officer of MF Global, I tried to exercise my best judgment on the behalf of our clients, employees, and shareholders. Once again, let me go back to where I started, and I mean this with all sincerity. I apologize, both personally and on behalf of the company, to our customers, our employees, and our investors. I truly know they are bearing the brunt of the impact of the firm's bankruptcy. Includes my prepared remarks, and I'm willing to answer your questions.